Here's the blank we made from an earlier video. We're going to try to pressure flake it into something. I don't hear anything. Oh, that's my bad ear. Yeah? Yeah? Okay. Will do. Here's my power pressure flaker. It's a antler tine embedded in a piece of wood. This is oak and this is cedar, a cedar block with a hole in it so I can change out the pressure flaker. I use this big piece here to embed in my gut, right there in my hip, to get extra leverage in the pressure flaking. So this block makes it comfortable to put up in here and act as a fulcrum for lever pressure. So this piece has some thick edges. We need to, first thing is to get rid of those thick edges. So let's get rid of this part right there. When you're pressure flaking with antler, your antler tip is on the edge and not behind the edge. So we'll put the antler on the edge of the rock and then press in. Turn this over. Put it on the edge. I'm putting a lot of force in there because I have a pretty thick edge here. And sometimes you need to trim the edge before you try to push into there. The edge needs to be thick enough to accept the force that you're going to put in there. So trim the edge up a little bit. Most of your success is going to come from preparing the edges properly, and that just comes with practice. You just have to do it a lot. But I've kind of straightened this edge here. Now I can take off some flakes here to take some thickness off. Let's go in here. So it's really not that difficult once you get the hang of it. I really love using the antler instead of the copper when I'm pressure flaking. I just look around for those thick areas and set up to push them off. You're just pushing those humps off. There's a bit of a hump here, so let's crunch down the edge a little bit using the side of my antler, making sure that the edge is tough enough to accept some nice heavy pressures in there. Okay, we need a good flake right here. That's just right. Move over and get this hump here. It's important that you be able to recognize where the humps are, even if they're subtle. And sometimes you work a little bit on each side of the hump to make the hump stand out even more. Then you make sure that platform is good and strong before you try to take the flake. These flakes are going halfway. That's fine. I'm going past halfway there. Okay, so I'm not just pushing on the edge anywhere. I'm preparing the edges and then pushing on the edge. I've got a bad hump right here, so we need to get rid of that. Well, how am I going to get rid of that? I'll go to the base of the hump, nibble down a little bit on the edge, and just push down the middle of that. I'm going to get behind that platform a little bit. We ran up that ridge. We got another one there nearby. Get ready and see if we can get rid of it. And try to fix my platform a little bit. Okay, so I have a ridge right here that I need to push off. Got a platform here. There, so you can see maybe those two pressure flakes pretty much taking that hump off. Still some thickness through here, so I'm going to trim this side down. Now that side is smooth and thinned down. I'm going to crunch down on the edge over here a little bit. Let's come all the way up to here and we'll start a row of flakes. This long antler tine can flex, and that flex is probably beneficial to the flaking. Now just running up to the middle. These flakes are going all the way to the middle or farther. There's no need to work with indirect percussion tools just to thin this on down. We're doing an exact job thinning down now with a pressure flaking. There. I have to be careful flaking this way because often people say it's got paleo flaking on the blade, and all I'm doing is going down in a row. So now we're getting thinner. As I think this thing is kind of square, but I've got to figure out which is going to be the base and which is the tip. I got some thickness here on the edge. We got to get rid of that before we can worry about anything else. So let's get that thinned down. Just pushing the humps off. That's got some of the rind and the cortex left on this rock, so I have to sharpen up the edge. It's hard for you to see exactly what I'm doing, but I'm just putting the tip on the edge of the rock in a place that's been specially prepared for that by beveling a little bit and maybe possibly light grinding. Nothing too fancy. Okay, got some, it's kind of thick here, but I don't know. Let's see here. We're wide right here. This rock has got that beautiful pattern in it. I hate to lose that, but let's see. Let me thin down a couple more areas before I decide which is the tip. Okay, we're gonna go for it. It's tip is gonna be up here, base down here. Just feels like that's the way it should go. So I'm gonna start narrowing this end toward the tip. Do both sides. Just scrunching down on the edge. Then flaking a little bit. These flakes are starting to fold right there, so I gotta be careful and not crunch that edge, crush that edge. You crush edges with antler just like you do with anything else. Preparing a little nipple right here to run this little, there's a thick area right through here. I'm trying to get that. This is going to be my base. When you do pressure flaking, most of the time you've got to build up the pressure slowly. If you do, you get better results. That was a good thinning flake for the base. Might get one more over here on this side. Yeah. Look at that pressure flake. It ran all the way from here up into the middle of the point. Thin that down really nicely. See how thin we are? Okay, let's bevel this side and run some flakes across this way. So scrunch down. Just using the side of my antler. Notice I haven't been grinding, but you can grind as you see fit. I slipped off on that one, so you have to be careful Sometimes humidity messes with the antler tips and gets slick and sliding everywhere. Start a row here. Okay, I took some thickness off of this area here. Let's take a little bit of thickness off here. So scrunch down the side, kind of beveling. And find that hump that I'm looking for. Maybe trim a little bit on each side of it. Make it kind of isolated. Make sure this nipple is good and strong, it's not sharp. And you can get a nice big pressure flake thinning that whole area here. Okay, let's go up toward the top. There's a thick area here and a place right here to push on. So let's bevel this a little bit. Strengthen up the nipple. There we go, all the way up into the middle of the point from the edge here. Okay, so let's continue working on the tip. The tip area is really thin. Still doing the same thing, we're kind of beveling and strengthen up the edge and push on the edge. When you first start out doing this, it's kind of difficult, but you get the hang of it. Just keep working at it. If you don't seem to get it, then find a friend or someone maybe can help you see what you're doing wrong. Okay, well, I want this blade to be incurved a little bit instead of X-curved here, so I'm gonna bevel down on here. See if I can get rid of this thick area here. I don't have my little sandstone abrader at the moment, so I'm just going to use this big piece. And what I'm doing is rounding the edge, making it real strong, but not too strong. It's still relatively thin. I'm going to flake on either side of this area, hoping to get a big flake to undercut that if possible. It's the area here I'm targeting. In any case, I want this edge to come in. Looks like I'm gonna probably get a stack fracture if I work too much on that, so I'm just gonna thin the edge instead of trying to get out in the middle. Okay, so I'm gonna narrow this side a little bit. There's a little spot in the middle that likely will develop a stack fracture if I try to flake across it, so I'm just going to leave it alone. It's thin through there anyway, so just leave that alone. Sometimes you have to accept some imperfections that are in there, and if you try to flake them out, you often ruin the piece. Okay, let's see here. Pressure flaking is an art, and it takes some time to learn. Just shaping the tip. Started getting a stack fracture up in there. Gotta bring the edge in some and try to undercut it. I'm going to attempt to get under this stack fracture here. It's probably a bad idea. Well, I got most of it. It's gone. All of it. But my blade is a little bit more narrow than I wanted it to be. Okay. We're just going to go for a stemmed point with a nice thin base. Takes a long time to set and do pressure flaking. Depending on how good you want to be. You spend a lot of time pressure flaking. Okay, here's what we got. There's a nice thin base. Got the stripes in the rock. Nice and thin. Very thin. Okay, thank you for watching and thank you for subscribing.